TikTok may have just solved or at least provided a clue to whether time travel or time loops are real. When I tell you I ran to make this video as soon as I just read the email that I just read. Yesterday I posted this story about this woman named Maria who said that she and her siblings experienced what they think is a time loop while driving from Georgia to Florida, or Florida to Georgia. Basically, her and her siblings could not escape this gas station, and that video is right before this video in this playlist. But I just got an email from this guy named John Doe. He did not use his real name, okay? This email came at 2:56 a.m. I'm just going to read you what he said. Normally I like to summarize, but I feel like this one needs to be read in his words. Keep in mind, I can never prove or disprove the validity of these emails. Like, these could come from anyone. So I don't know if this is true, but it's very convincing, okay? It says, "Hi, Ashley. My hands are shaking as I type this email. I have debated sending this message for several hours, and I am now several drinks in. With liquid courage, my curiosity finally outweighs my hesitation. Regarding the story of what you call Maria's glitch in the Matrix, as she and her family traveled from Florida to Georgia, I am curious if she remembers an approximate location. I ask because her story is eerily similar to a story my father told my sister, who is recently deceased, and I as we were growing up, and the details of this story made me question everything I've ever believed in. I have reason to think my father may have been the man they encountered at the gas station. My father was born in 1942, not far from Lexington, Kentucky. He was a man of pride and valued that over all else. When he was a teenager, he and his family relocated to Georgia, where he spent most of his life. He served in Vietnam as a track vehicle mechanic, MOS 63C in the Army, but he was medically discharged in 1966 due to a back injury. After returning home, he married my mother. My sister was born in 1967, and I was born in 1971. By the time I was born, my father struggled with a severe addiction to... His doctors prescribed him a mix of something for sleep, something to keep him functional, and something else for pain. A mix that was common for veterans back then. Couple that with excessive drinking, and you can imagine that my mother was unhappy. She often packed the car and took us to live with her parents, my grandparents, but they always ended up getting back together, and we played happy family from time to time whenever my father cleaned up his act enough to win her back. Although he had periods of employment as a mechanic, working for small mom and pop shops and even running his own business at one point, he was often unemployed for long stretches. By the time this story takes place, my mother must have been fed up and threatening to leave him again because he cleaned up his act long enough to get a job working nights at a gas station. The place was owned by an old friend of his, and it had an old body shop attached to it that was mostly non-functional. I don't know if it was for lack of business or money, but I think the plan was to get Dad working back in the shop eventually when there was business for it. The year was 1984, and I was 13. I remember this because my sister and I had gone to see Karate Kid the night he came home talking about time travelers. We were still awake. My sister's friend Jill was spending the night, and I had a thing for her, so I was hanging around trying to impress her. I saw the headlights from a car pull in the drive and heard my father come in the back door. This was earlier than he usually arrived home, and he and my mother argued. At one point, she appeared in the doorway of our bedroom and pulled it shut. I couldn't hear most of the conversation, but he was frantic. He yelled about time travel. My mother must have thought he was out of his mind, drunk or high, and told him to get out. I heard him shuffle down the hallway, presumably to pack a bag. A few minutes later, the door burst open and he stood in the hall, his eyes wide and scared. When he talked, his voice was low. "I saw fucking ghosts tonight. 5 of them. Ghosts from the future," he told us. The 3 of us stared at him, not believing a single word. By that point, he had disappointed us so many times that we never expected him to stay sober for long. "You don't believe me. I can prove it. There's fucking tire marks where they left it. I'll show you." My sister nodded, trying to appease him. He looked sad, realizing that tire marks didn't prove anything. The car was from the future, too. And after that, they left, and they came back to watch me driving by real slow. My mother appeared in the doorway behind him and told him it was time to go. He didn't fight her, just slumped over and walked out. He matches this woman's description nearly to a T. He would have only been in his early 40s when this took place, but his hair had gone completely silver in his mid-30s. He had the darkest, most hollow eyes you've ever seen, which I always attributed to his years of substance abuse that also aged him beyond his years. He almost always wore the same pair of denim overalls and a white shirt beneath it. He was wearing them that night. I remember it as clear as if it were yesterday, because that was the last time I saw him for 16 years. He came back around when my first child was born. He had tried to make contact over the years, but my mother insisted that he was unwell and that having him in our lives wouldn't do anything good for us. She was probably right. After my mother's passing, and when I became a father, I realized it was time to let the past be the past and let him back in. He was overjoyed to be a grandfather, and that night as we caught up, I brought up the last night I saw him. I asked him why he relapsed when he did. He told me that he didn't, and that the story he told us that night about seeing 5 people from the future was the truth. He said he'd always known what he had seen, but that no one had ever believed him. Eventually, he said he just stopped talking about it, but it had changed his entire life. He told me he believed in God, or at least something bigger than himself, because there, quote, "sure as shit wasn't any way, there ain't nothing else out there after that." I still didn't believe him, but I thought that at least he was sober and found something to believe in. He died the following year. I have told my daughters this story, and until now, it was just that, a story, one of the few I have of him. One of my daughters, who still lives at home with my wife and I, saw your video and showed it to me last night as I lay dozing on my chair. She said it reminded her of the story I'd told her of her grandfather. Upon first watch of your video, I came to the conclusion that I was having a lucid dream. When I realized I was awake, my hands trembled hard enough that I had trouble holding her phone. My daughter did not know details of what my father wore or even what he looked like at the time, with long, unkempt hair and a thin, skeletal build, the night he supposedly encountered these people from the future. No one could have known the details of his story or how precisely they matched this story you shared unless they had been there themselves. My father was an addict, there's no doubt about that. Perhaps he really was hallucinating that night, but now I wish I'd asked him more questions. As for the gas station, if it was the same one, it would have been just south of Valdosta on road off of SR 376. I have chosen to stay anonymous as I work in a field that demands evidence-based thinking and cannot have my name out there in relation to this story. I hope you understand. I also understand if you decline to share this, as it may seem like just a disappointed son grasping at straws to feel a connection with his father. Either way, it gives me some peace to know that maybe he was telling the truth. Okay, so where do we go from here? If you are from the area that he referenced, Valdosta, or just south of there near this road that he mentioned, maybe ask your grandparents or your parents if there was a gas station that was also a body shop around here, if they knew the people that worked there. Like, I'm shook.
Story time on how I found out that my imaginary friend at 5 years old was real. Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but I had an imaginary friend when I was 5 years old. So this was like 3 years ago, I want to say, something like that. It was Paranormal Day, and I was having a team meeting with my team, and my team lead was like, let's share some stories. Does anybody have stories to share? So everybody was sharing their story, and then it got to me, and they're like, Jasmine, you know, do you have any stories to tell? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. I told them I had an imaginary friend when I was 5, and it was so real to me that my brother, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my family, they would catch me talking to my friend in my room or in car rides or whatever the case was. This is where it gets freaky, and pay attention, stay till the end, because your mind will be blown, I swear. First of all, there is a cemetery down the street from my childhood home, and my aunt didn't work too far from us, and not too far from the cemetery. We'd have to pass the cemetery to get to her work, and we would go pick her up. Well, whenever we would leave the house, sometimes my friend wasn't with me, so I would tell my mom, like, Mom, like, my friend, I'm not gonna say her real name, I'm gonna say her name is Lisa. I would tell her, Mom, Lisa's not in the truck, like, we have to go back and get her. And my mom at first was like, Jasmine, like, no, like stop playing. I'm like, no, Mom, for real. So I would get really mad and really sad. I would have to, like, I would make my mom turn around to go pick up my friend. So my mom would turn around to go back to the house, and when we would be getting to my house, I would say, oh no, never mind, Lisa's already here. And my mom was like, what the heck, dude? Like, okay, whatever. Shout out to my mom for listening to me to make me happy. So like I said, we would pass the cemetery, and one day my mom says that I told her, Mom, look, that's where my friend lives. That's where she told me she lives. And my mom's like, oh, really? And then I'm like, yeah. And I'm pointing at the cemetery. Mind you, I'm 5 years old. What 5-year-old knows what a cemetery is, right? So we go pick up my aunt, and my mom, she's like stunned, right? She's like, what the hell? You know, she's been talking to this imaginary friend for some time now, and now she's telling me that her friend lives in a cemetery. Okay, if my daughter were to tell me that right now, my 5-year-old daughter were to tell me, I would be freaked out, right? So my mom was freaked out. We go pick up my aunt. This imaginary friend was so serious for me. At the time, my whole neighborhood would kind of play together. All the kids would play together. All the kids would come to my house and play with me because I had a little playground. Even the kids that were a little bit older than me, they would come and push me on the swings. We'd play tag, all of that, right? And after a while, they started getting freaked out because I would say, oh, don't forget to push my friend Lisa, or oh, don't forget to go tag my friend Lisa. And they were just like, Jasmine, like, I'll be back. I gotta go home real quick. So it was just a big deal. Okay, fast forward, right? So I'm telling my coworkers all this, right? And they're like, oh my God. We get off the call and one of my coworkers messages me on Teams and she says, hey, I'm curious. Did you ever go and look in the cemetery, what do you call it? The word just like left my mind. The cemetery directory or something like that, to see if there was in fact a little kid there by the name of your imaginary friend, to see if they're actually there. And I was like, you know what? Like, I never thought of that. Stay with me, stay with me. This is where it all comes together and where I was just blown away. Stay with me. I did that. I went to the directory of that cemetery and I type in my imaginary friend's name. Long and behold, a little girl pops up with my imaginary friend's name. Okay, now this is how I linked it and confirmed it. Okay, so my grandma passed away in December of 2000. My friend Lisa, date of death is 3 months prior to my grandma passing away, right? Okay, stay with me. I dug a little deeper because I was like, okay, she's there, but where is she, right? Where my grandma's plot is, my friend, my imaginary friend, her plot is like 3 blocks down from my grandma, which is not far at all. And that just stunned the heck out of me because she had just been buried. She had just been buried when we went to my grandma's burial. So I'm like, oh my God, I must have stepped over her stone. I must have walked past it. I don't know where she attached herself to me. So I did more research, like I said, because I really dug into this. I was like invested. Just the fact that she exists. She was like 6 or 7 years old when she passed away. I dug in deeper. I put in my city, I put in the name, I put in where she, when she passed away, just to see if I could find a story about her, right? And I did. And it's a very sad story and it's very unfortunate and I felt really bad. I also did research about, young children's spirits. And what I read, when children pass on, some of them are confused. They don't know what's going on, right? They don't know what just happened to them. So their souls sometimes stay grounded. They stay where, in certain places or whatever. If you want more information on that, you can go and research it. But I was just so like, oh my God, like I had to tell somebody. So I called my husband. I told my husband, I was like, oh my God, dude, check this out. After I talked to my husband, I called my dad because my dad is one of the persons that is very well aware of my imaginary friend. Okay, I'm running out of time. Go to part 2 to hear the rest of the story.
An influencer on this app is scared that they sold their soul to the devil in exchange for a music career. That's what tonight's true scary story is. I got the entire story. And if you guys have seen this video,
maybe somebody can tell me what the fuck that is.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he gave me the entire story. And if I ever wanted you to stay till the end of a video, it is this one. I will also be including photos and videos in this that are creepy to say the least, so just wait. So let's jump right into it. Tonight's submitter's name is Jack, and he did say that I could tag him. You might already know who he is, but I'm going to tag him in the description anyways. In the winter of 2024, Jack's grandfather had a couple friends over at his house. He met a couple there that lives in a small town in Pennsylvania. He enjoyed talking to them. They talked for a while, and he thought that when he left, he would never see them again. About a month after this, he gets a text message. His grandfather had actually given that couple his phone number. Jack used to be in the military. He is a combat veteran. Thank you so much for your service. You are the best. So that couple had actually had a family member that was also in the military, and they wanted to gift Jack Jack a guitar. Now, this guitar was their son's guitar, and they told him that their son had recently passed away. This kind of freaked Jack out a little bit, right? He didn't really want to take the guitar because it freaked him out that their son had just passed away and it was his guitar. I guess it was his superstition. But he didn't want to be rude, so he took the guitar from them because he said they were a very nice couple. He didn't touch this guitar for 2 months. It sat in his living room for 2 months. Now, this is when the strangeness began. He would walk past that guitar in the living room and he would get this strong urge to want to play the guitar, even though he had previously not really played instruments before. He had tried it when he was younger and he said that he was not good at it at all. One day he's like, you know what, I want to try to play this. So he picks up the guitar and he starts playing it, and he actually learns how to play it very quickly and actually pretty well. So well that 2 months later he was able to play 10 to 12 songs. He even played for musicians in his area, and they were shocked to hear that he was playing the guitar, but even more shocked to know that he had learned in such a short amount of time. Then a series of coincidences started happening. Like, he went to his doctor's office and he told his doctor that he started playing the guitar, and his doctor's like, oh, that's great, there's actually this song and I can't remember the name of it and I really like it and I haven't heard it in forever. Then Jack leaves the appointment and the doctor goes to lunch, and as soon as the doctor gets inside of his car, he turns on the radio, and guess what's playing on the radio? That song that he had not heard in forever that he loved, that he was telling Jack about. Now, Jack is a very mathematical person. He thinks very mathematically, and he said that 8 to 10 coincidences happened after this, and that is almost impossible. Now, I don't have time to tell you guys about all the coincidences here, but I will do a longer version. But it wasn't just the coincidences that were happening. Strange things started happening as well. Like, for instance, he would be in his bed sleeping and the guitar would be out in the living room, and he would just randomly wake up to hearing it strum. But this happened multiple times in 1 week, so he decided to bring the guitar into his room and to see if something would happen. Nothing happened in front of him in his room, and he was like, okay, so this is really weird. Another time he was in his room and he was sitting at the end of his bed playing the guitar, and he just hears somebody whisper in his ear. He turns around and nothing is there. Then after this, he decides that he's going to go to Mississippi because he wants to refine some of his guitar work. He really wanted to take a break, go to Mississippi, learn a bunch about the guitar, and then come back and make content about music and play the guitar. So he's in Mississippi and he's playing the guitar, and he randomly feels somebody grab his left shoulder. He whips around really quickly, nobody is there. And this is the same shoulder that he heard that whispering at before. So he said that normally something like this would really scare him, but it actually didn't scare him at all. He felt really calm about it. He would also be playing and he would feel something on like the left side of his body. It felt like pressure, almost like somebody was leaning on the left side of his shoulder to look over him watching him play. And a series of strange things would happen. Like, he would take pictures and videos of himself playing the guitar, and weird things would pop up. He actually has one video that he said that he's going to send me. He hasn't sent it to me yet, where a cloud forms. And one day he's looking through his camera roll and he finds a strange picture, one that he had never taken. He did not remember taking this picture. It must have been taken by accident or someone else took it. But this is the picture. Do you guys see the face in the background? That is insane. And on another day, he's going to a doctor's appointment and he's walking through the hallway. He gets to the door, his phone starts going off, so he looks down at his phone and he realizes that something is flickering, and he looks above him and there's a light that is just flickering randomly. It's flickering right above his head, and this is the video for that.
The light started going off here. I stopped here to check something, and then boom, the light just starts flickering.
Well, a lot of things like this are happening to him, right? And he realizes at some point that he really wants to play the guitar. Like, he wants to be a professional guitar player. He wants to play in front of people. It's a dream of his now. There's a legend that if you go to the crossroads in Mississippi, that you can actually meet the devil there and exchange your soul for a music career. There are rumors that Bob Dylan and Robert Johnson did this. This legend has become so popular that actually a lot of musicians have gone there and done this. A lot of people always go there, and people are constantly going to the crossroads, trying to do this, attempting to do this, and a lot of times succeeding. So Jack ultimately decides that he's going to go to the crossroads and he's going to see what happens, if anything happens, if he just goes there and he plays. And this is exactly what went down. So he goes to the crossroads for several nights, but to no avail. But it was his last night there, so he was like, you know what, I'm just going to go and I'm going to try it one more time. He really didn't think anything was going to happen. Well, he's playing the guitar when he gets this sense that somebody is watching him. A man then walks up to him, very well dressed. He's about 6'3", 6'4", and pale white. Black hair that was combed over. He did not look like he belonged in the Delta. He looked like a city guy. Even looked like a stockbroker. He had parked his car about 50 feet away and it looked to be like a Mercedes, and he had this creepy white smile on his face, like his teeth were bright white and very straight. He asked Jack how badly he wants to be a musician, and Jack says very badly, and he says, let me see your guitar. He hands it to him, but with extreme hesitancy because it's his only guitar and because of the folklore. The guy then begins to play it, and this guy is really good, which surprises Jack. He then looks at Jack and says, you understand the sacrifices and the consequences of becoming a musician, right? Jack then says, I do. And the guy smiles at him, and a chill goes down Jack's spine. Then hands in the instrument back, and Jack is scared to death to take it back because he knows the folklore. But he did. He took his guitar back because he wasn't going to just let him walk away with it. It was his only guitar. Jack then takes it back, and the guy looks at him and says, I have to get going now, but I'll see you again one day. And I look forward to hearing you play for me. Jack obviously thinks this is really strange, so he goes, what do you mean? The guy then just says, oh, nothing to be concerned about. I meant when you make it. And he has this creepy smile on his face, almost like a movie smile, and then he turns around and he walks away. Jack didn't tell me whether he actually made a deal with this guy or not. He wouldn't tell me that part. So there are some bits of the story missing. But what I can tell you is that the next day, he got an audition with a big music producer. And now he is more focused on music than ever. What do you guys think of this story? What do you guys think happened? Do you guys think he made a deal with the devil? Or do you think that that was just some random guy that walked up knowing that people come to the crossroads and do stuff like that, and just to like scare him or freak him out, or maybe simply give him some motivation? He really wants to know your thoughts and opinions because he's really anxious about this. Like, he's really worried about it. So if you guys could leave your thoughts and comments, it would be great. I don't know, but I'm very interested to see if he makes it big or not. I really hope he does, because Jack seems like a really awesome dude. I really enjoyed talking to you, Jack. You're an awesome guy, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you make it. I do hope that you make it on your own accord, because I don't want you to have to sell your soul to the devil. I will be telling a longer version of the story tomorrow. It's too late for me to do tonight, but I couldn't tell it on here because it was just it's way too long. So drop all your thoughts, opinions, suggestions in the comments. Please be kind, you guys. He is a really cool dude. Like I said, he's a very nice person. So I would really appreciate it if you were respectful and kind in my comments. And with that being said, I'm not going to do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. First shout out is going to lovely Miss Lockhart. You are always so respectful and kind in my comments, and you are always commenting. Girl, I appreciate you more than you could possibly understand. Thank you so much for being a part of my little community. Thank you for being so kind. I notice you, girl, and you are the best. I love you. Thank you. The next shout out is going to Maddie W. Girl, you are the best. You said that you watch my videos daily, and that means everything to me. When people watch my videos every single day, that means you truly like them, and it means so much to me. So thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you for being kind. I appreciate your support more than you could possibly understand, and I love you, girl. And I'm obviously going to talk about the sweater I'm wearing. It says Spooky Babes Club. I love that. It also has a butterfly in the middle. I love that. I have a butterfly tattoo, so that's great. It's super soft on the inside. It's high quality material, and it fits perfectly. So I'm a size small. I got a size small. If you like a larger fit, I would upsize, but otherwise, if you like the way it fits me, I would get it true to size. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. I love it. I'm gonna drop the link for you right there. With that being said, my name is Kaisa, and I tell true scary stories on here that you guys submit to me every single night. So if you're into that, hit that follow button. And I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.
I just had the worst, most awkward, terrible Tinder date of my life, and I just need to like talk about it real quick because this is insane. So I started talking to this guy literally today. We matched on Tinder today, and he was messaging me and like was pretty adamant. Like, I didn't answer him at first, and then like he messaged me again. So I was like, whatever, like I'll give him a chance. Like, sure. So he's messaging me and basically is like, oh, like add me on Snapchat. I deleted my Snapchat and my Instagram. Long story, but I basically was like, oh, I don't have Snapchat, like you can text me. So I gave him my number, and he starts texting me, and basically off the bat he's like, I really want to see you, like what are you doing later, like let's go to the movies, let's go on a date. And like he seemed so nice, he was so cute. On his Tinder bio it said he was in finance, he's 6 feet, he had a bunch of pictures, he was like verified, so real person. Like I was like, okay, like sure, let's go on a date. And he sent me like this movie and everything, and basically I was like, yeah, like I'm down, like let's do it. And he was like, awesome, like bought the tickets, like I'll see you tonight, blah blah. And then we're planning out like when we wanted to meet, if we wanted to meet like prior, all this stuff. We talked like all day basically. And so it finally came to like before we were going, and he tells me that his car is in the shop and he has to Uber, and it would be really nice if I wanted to pick him up. Instant fucking red flag. I should have just ran then. Don't know why I didn't. I was already in deep enough. I was just like, yeah, no, like we should just meet there, like just Uber. So he's like, fine with that, whatever. So he Ubers there, I'm driving, and he gets there like a few minutes before me. So I call him when I pull in. I'm like, hey, I just got here. We got there like an hour early because we wanted to meet up and like talk and stuff before. I wanted to like get to know him, because when you're at a movie, you can't talk and get to know the person. I'm so stupid for all of this. In hindsight, like I see this now. Anyway, I call him. I'm like, oh, like, do you want to like come in my car and like we can like hang out in here and like talk before the movie or whatever? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll come out, just park wherever. Thank God I park literally right front and center, like under the lights. There's people outside. There's people in their cars. Like, so I'm parked right front and center. He gets in my car and like all is like fine. And we're talking, whatever. And I basically like had to tell him. So before I left my house, I realized I had a cold sore on my lip, whatever. Like, a lot of people get them. I've gotten them ever since I was a little kid. I don't know, but I know they're contagious, and I know it's basically herpes or whatever. So I had to tell him. And it was like the worst thing to have to tell someone on a first date. And I was so nervous. I was so scared. And I'm like, if you want to leave now, like if you're all set, like I get it. Like, don't worry. I was like, I swear I don't have any other diseases. Like, this is it. I have a cold sore and I have to tell you, because like, yeah, like if we kiss, you know, like obviously we can't. And he's like laughing. He's like, you're so cute. He's like, no, like, I don't care. I actually just got over one myself. Like, it's fine. Like, I want to kiss you. And I was like, oh, like, okay. I was like, your choice, you know? And he's like, can I kiss you? And I was like, sure. Mind you, we literally were only talking for like 5 minutes, not even. Anyways, starts kissing me, keeps kissing me, and like grabs my leg, and I'm like, oh God, like, okay, this is not like, not what I imagined. So I kind of pull away. I started a different conversation. We started talking. He's just acting like really weird. Like, he was like kind of annoyed that I like pulled out of the kiss. And so I asked him like, oh, like what happened to your car? Like, why is it in the shop? And he starts being so weird and like moving around. He's like, yeah, like actually it's really embarrassing. I lost my license on the 4th of July. I got a DUI, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, like in my head, I'm like, okay, this guy already lied to me about something like this. Like, this is just I already have awful vibes about this. Anyways, we get over that, and he just keeps like wanting to make out and like kiss, and I'm like I just feel like I have to. Like, it was a really awkward situation. And then he starts grabbing my hand and putting it, I'm sure you can guess where. And I basically had to pull away and like tell him like, I just want to like get this out of the way now. I'm not trying to do all that, you know, like, no. And his whole demeanor changed. He completely changes, and he's basically tells me like that's all he wanted. Like, that's why he came tonight. That's why he did all this, because he was expecting that. And I like had to tell him no, like, sorry. And before this too, he was telling me that I should move parking spots or whatever, and I wouldn't. And even after me telling him that I'm not doing all that, he still kept trying to get me to move my car to like the back of the theater where it's like completely dark, and he's just acting really off and really weird. And instantly I'm just getting like awful vibes. Like, I'm just like, and then he starts like gaslighting me, telling me that I led him on. Huh? Like, I'm so sorry for agreeing to go to the movies with you and I wouldn't pick you up. Like, I didn't even argue with him, because I'm like, if I get this man angry, like, who knows what's gonna happen. I mean, thank God I'm right in front of the theater under the lights, and like there's people around. So, but he was like making jokes too, because like I had a nice car. He's like, because I kept saying like, oh, like, I hope you don't kill me, like I hope you're not a murderer. And he's like, yeah, I could like literally kill you right now and like take your car, like you have a nice car, blah blah. And like, I don't know, maybe it was just jokes, like, because I was joking about it, but it felt really off to me. And you could tell he was like really pissed off that and he kept trying to get me to like want to do stuff with him, and like he was like, oh, like maybe we can still go see the movie. Mind you, I did check before I went, and we would have been the only 2 people in that movie. Like, I had awful vibes. I was like, no. I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. Like, your time's valuable. And he's like, he's like sulking. He's like, my time's not valuable. Like, I'm like, okay, you clearly are a psychopath and you clearly have no self-esteem and you probably will just kill me. Like, I don't even know if I can post this because I can't say all this stuff. Whatever, I'm posting it. But yeah, so basically I started crying and was just trying to make him feel as bad as possible because I'm like, I don't want this guy to kill me right now. Like, he was being really weird. Like, there's so much I could explain, but I had so many red flags. Thank God I had my like smarts about me and whatever. Like, this could have ended so much worse. He basically was like, oh, like, will you at least wait for me, like, my Uber to get here? And I was like, yeah, like, sure. Like, I'm not gonna like piss you off anymore. Like, his Uber got there and like whatever, he's gone. I'm low-key kind of scared. I'm like, is there a tracker in my car? Is there something? Like, I don't know. I'm just gonna pray all is fine. I'm okay. But if I wake up dead tomorrow, y'all know what happened. But I shouldn't even joke like that. But anyway, I'm never going on another date again. And that's just that. Sorry, he ruined it for everyone. Okay, good night, bye. I'm happy to be alive.
This guy, Andrew, emailed me and he was like, I saw your crazy roommate story. I have to tell you mine. When I read the details of this email, my jaw was on the floor. It's disgusting. You cannot make this stuff up. 5 or 6 years ago, Andrew moves out of his parents' house. He's getting his first apartment. He meets a guy on Craigslist and they move in together. He said he really needed to move out at that point in his life because he's one of 7 children. Money was tight, space was tight. So like he had no other options. So Mark is his Craigslist roommate. Mark is off the bat really quiet, really awkward, really shy. They actually don't end up talking much, but like it's not a bad roommate situation. Like Mark's pretty respectful. They greet each other when they pass each other, but like don't really have a friendship or a relationship. Andrew's living there for 5 months with no problems when things start to get weird. One night, Andrew's getting home and he gets a text from Mark saying that Mark is going to be out of the apartment tonight. So he doesn't think anything of it. He doesn't respond, leaves him on read, and he goes into his room, turns on his PC, puts on his headphones and starts playing video games. And he's playing games for like an hour when he feels somebody touch his shoulder and he jumps and turns around because he doesn't expect anyone to be there and Mark's standing there. So Andrew jumps and he turns around and he's like, I'm sorry, like I didn't think you were going to be home tonight. You just scared me. And Mark's just like, why would I not be at home? I'm always home at night. And Andrew's like, well, you texted me that you weren't going to be here. And Mark's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So Andrew doesn't think anything of it because he thinks he just like read the text in a weird way, or maybe it was written in a weird way. And Mark goes to bed. And then an hour later, Andrew goes to bed. While he's asleep, he wakes up to the sound of something shattering in the kitchen. So he runs out. He thought that maybe Mark just broke a dish or something, but he sees Mark sitting on the floor in the kitchen, self-harming with pieces of a plate. So he starts screaming at Mark. He's like, what are you doing? And Mark just looks at him very calmly and is like, what does it look like? Andrew's like freaking out. So he turns all the lights on. He's like trying to talk him out of it. Mark puts the plate down and basically just says like, I don't want to talk about it. Then he gets really mad at Andrew and he's like, you know what? Next time I'm just going to use a knife since all you care about is your dishes anyway. He gets up, he storms past Andrew, goes to his room and like slams the door. Andrew decided to text him to be like, are you okay? Like, do you want to talk anymore? And Mark just responds, yeah, like YEA, yeah. Andrew could barely sleep. The whole thing was extremely disturbing to him because Mark had never been rude, never been weird, never been aggressive. So he's just like totally out of pocket with what to do. He tries to talk to Mark again the next day and Mark is like dismissive of the whole thing and basically treats Andrew's concern like a joke. So Andrew decides that if he does anything else, he's going to call 911, but this time he's just going to respect Mark and say that he was having like a depressive or like manic episode. A week later, Andrew is studying at his desk. His door's open and he turns to look and he sees Mark standing at the doorway of his room. And his eyes are weird. They're like glazed over, not focused, but he can tell he's looking at him and his mouth's open. So Andrew's like, do you need anything? And Mark just like makes a wet smacking noise with his lips. So Andrew's talking to him and he's not acknowledging anything Andrew's saying. And he just keeps making this sound and like he's just standing there for like 15 minutes and Andrew's like getting really freaked out and really uncomfortable naturally. So Andrew gets up and like literally pushes him out of the doorway and closes the door. And Mark's just standing there like still making the noise. And Andrew's like really disturbed. So he goes and he calls his friend who tells him that he needs to call to get Mark evaluated for like mental health issues. And then he calls his brother and his brother's like, no, don't do that because you're going to lose your roommate. He's like, if he's paying rent and everything's good, just like let him be. A month goes by. Mark is still acting weird, but Andrew said like most things were like too small to mention and he wasn't necessarily a victim. Like Mark would stay out all night. He wouldn't come out of his room. He would just act weird and erratic around the apartment. But the final straw comes one night when Andrew wakes up to use the bathroom and he goes in the bathroom, turns on the lights and finds Mark eating his own feces out of the toilet. Andrew freaks out naturally, screams at him, calls him a freak. And he said looking back, it was really harsh, but he was just so shocked in the moment. And everything else that Mark had been doing just really made him blow up. And Mark just looks at him and tells him to grow a pair. And Mark goes back to doing what he was doing. And Andrew's so freaked out that he packs a bag and he leaves to go get a hotel that night. He calls him in the morning. He's like, I don't want to be roommates with you anymore. Like, you need to move out. And Mark starts crying on the phone. He's like begging him not to kick him out. And a few hours later, he's like, okay, I'll leave. And Andrew also ended up switching apartments because he said he just didn't feel safe anymore. A week after they break the lease and move out, he finds out that Mark has attacked someone at a train station. The person he attacked retaliated, and Mark was unalived by his wounds. There's a little more to the story. The details are very graphic, so I couldn't include them because it's TikTok. But Andrew ended his email by saying that he has actually blamed himself a few times for Mark's unaliving. And he suspects that he was acting that way because of schmugs, and that he really wishes that he had called someone sooner. Andrew will be seeing the comments, so be nice. And keep sending me your creepy, crazy, spooky story times, and I will keep posting them in this playlist. So I have polls on my Insta every day of which story you guys want to hear next, so follow me there.
Oh my god. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Never ever let a man come over to your house after the first date, and if you used to do this, you'll never do this ever again after hearing this story. So this young girl goes on a first date with this guy she's never met before. They go for dinner and she's having a great time. No red flags. He's not weird. He's not creepy. She doesn't feel alarmed in any type of way. The dinner goes fine, and then eventually at the end of the dinner they part ways and she goes home. Just to note, throughout the dinner he did not hint or insinuate in any shape or form that he wanted to go to her place afterwards because he was such a respectful guy. Right, but when she did get home, she was a little bit surprised when he called her saying that he needs to come over to her place because he can't find his keys and his flatmate is not picking up the phone. And because he seemed like such a genuine guy and such a sweet guy, there was no green flag, like he paid for the dinner and all of this stuff, she let him come over just to kind of help him out while he waits to get through to his flatmate. So he comes over and they're chilling on their couch, having a good time. Nothing was weird. She had no weird vibes, like he seriously was like a normal guy. And eventually it did get really late and she was like, hey, you can sleep on my couch while you figure things out. I'm gonna go to my room and go to sleep. And for some reason she had this gut feeling, like this gut intuition that literally just said to her, lock your bedroom door. So on this one occasion, she never ever usually locks her bedroom door, but on this one occasion she locked her bedroom door because let me tell you, a woman's intuition never lies to you. She knocks out, she goes to sleep. A couple of hours pass and she hears a few knocks on her door and it's him, and he's just asking her for a charger, but she had this instinct to not open her door and go show him the charger. So she literally just yelled from her bed and was like, the charger's in the kitchen, go help yourself. Says thank you and goes silent, and a couple of minutes go by. At this point she's just like, fine, he's got the charger, he's doing his business. But then he knocks on her door again and he's like, hey, this iPhone charger's not working. Can I come in your room? Like, do you have a charger in your room that I can use? Alarm bells are ringing in her head. And she's like, why does this man want to get in my room so badly? So she basically called the police. He did not know at this point that she actually phoned the police. He had no idea the police were coming. And then eventually she hears the police come, knock down the door. There's a lot of commotion going on in the living room. And then a couple more moments and a couple more minutes go past and the police eventually knock on her bedroom door saying, hey, it's the police, you're safe, you can now come outside. When she walked out her bedroom door into the living room, everywhere was plastered up. There was plastic sheets covering all the furniture, and there was a box of power tools, hammers, axes, drills, like you name it, screwdrivers, just a box of just tools there in her living room. If she did not use her womanly instincts, she would have been gone. She would have been gone. And it's just so sad that there are men, and they are disguised. There are men that are disguised. They show this friendly, outgoing, showing all the green flags, knowing the right things to say. But they are just most horrific, nasty people. He was so prepared to unalive her that night. Babe, if you have listened this far, I cannot stress enough. Never, ever, ever let a man come home to your house on the first date because you don't know who this guy really is and you don't know what he's capable, and God forbid this ever happens to you. So make sure you tell your girlfriends and you make this as a mental note that you'll never, no matter how sweet, how convincing this guy is, he's not coming home with you.
Not to be dramatic, but if I dropped dead tomorrow and woke up in hell, it would probably take me 2 to 3 full days to realize that I was not just in another HR-backed team building workshop with my coworkers.
It's Appalachia Spooky Story Time, y'all, and this story is very different than my others, which is exactly why I chose it, and I want to know what you all think about it. This story comes from one of my followers named Katie. It is pretty terrifying. If you are scared easily and you're watching this at night, I would just save it and wait until the morning. Katie said she grew up in the Midwest, but when she was in 7th grade, her family moved to Western North Carolina. It was her dad, her mom, her sister, and her. Katie said that they moved into this very old farmhouse, and even though it was an older farmhouse, it was quite big, and she said that they had a lot of woods back on the property. There was some field areas where there was some farmland, things like that. But directly from her room, because she was on the 2nd story, she had a window, and she could see out into the back of the woods. Just a few feet into the woods, there was an old shed, and she could see the shed from her bedroom window. She said the shed always kind of creeped her out a little bit because it was old, it was back in the woods, and just gave her weird feelings. But she noticed almost every evening her dad would go out into the shed. Sometimes he would only be out there for a few minutes, and then sometimes he would be in this shed for like hours and had no idea what he was doing. She said occasionally she would look out her window and would see lights on in the shed, and so she knew her dad was in there. One morning she looked out her window and there was a big padlock that had been added on to the shed. She thought this was really odd, so she asked her dad about it, and her dad basically told her and her sister that he put the padlock on there to keep people from breaking in because he had some tools that were stolen out of the shed. Then as he was going to leave, he looked back at her and her sister and was like, yeah, I don't ever want you all going near that shed. They're like, why? What's up with the shed? And he was like, don't ask questions. I'm your dad. Just listen to me. I don't want you all near the shed. Here's where things get really odd, though. She said one evening she saw her dad go down to the shed. That was pretty normal. She goes to bed, but in the middle of the night, she wakes up because she hears her mom screaming her dad's name. She wakes up and she's like, Mom, what is going on? And she's like, I can't find your dad. He never came back from the shed. Mom was like, I'm going to go check the shed. You girls just stay in here and I will be right back. Within just a matter of minutes, her mom comes running back through the door and calls an ambulance because she had found her husband slumped over in the shed. While they're waiting on the ambulance, all 3 of them run out to the shed and they're with the dad while he is just like slumped over. He is alive, but he's just not acting right. The ambulance gets there and they say only one person can ride in the ambulance with the dad. So the wife went and she told the daughters just to wait at the house and to take the day off school. Guys, this is so weird. After they leave to go to the hospital, the 2 girls stay and they're like looking in the shed and there's nothing in there. You know how she said she always saw a light on in the shed? There was no electricity in the shed. There was no lanterns, no electricity. It said hanging on the walls, there was like bird feathers and some rabbit feet. And there was like a small work desk with a few carving knives and a notebook. She said when she opened up the notebook, she saw her father's handwriting in there, but then on other pages, the handwriting was completely different. And it was all just like mumbled jargon that she couldn't understand. And then written in the floorboards were like carvings of different symbols. Some of them looked very fresh. Some of them looked super, super old. Her and her sister were super freaked out, felt very unsettled, and just went back into the house. Her dad was eventually discharged from the hospital and was diagnosed with having a stroke. So he came home, he had to walk with a cane, but ultimately was okay. She told her mom about what she found in the shed, so the mom confronted the dad. Apparently the dad just wouldn't talk about it. He just shut down, would not talk about what was in the shed. She said she started to hear her parents fighting a lot, like late at night. The one thing that her dad was always adamant about was that he wanted to continue to go down to the shed, even with his cane, even with like his disability from having the stroke. He was like adamant in the evenings that he still wanted to go out to the shed, and that was the main source of arguments from her parents. Okay, but then it gets even more bizarre. Eventually, months and months and months later, her dad got pneumonia. He was already declining from his stroke. He ended up passing away. After her dad's passing, Katie, her mom, and her sister ended up moving to a smaller home in the city, but she always wondered about that shed, like she couldn't stop thinking about it. Katie and her sister decided to do some research on the home. Turns out this home had had multiple owners over the last 20 years. Like almost every year, the house was put up for sale and bought by someone else. She tried to contact a couple of the previous owners just to like get more information about why they sold the home, anything odd that happened, whatever. And nobody would talk to her. Everyone, as soon as she started asking, just shut down and refused to speak to her. Except for one woman who said that her husband had also suffered a stroke in the shed. She said to this day she has not returned to the property. She does not intend to, but she knows that there is something evil inside of that shed. What do you all think happened here? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want more spooky stories, then just follow along.
I'm sorry, but why the f are we taking taxes out of the paychecks of 15 to 17-year-olds when they are not allowed to vote? Is that not the definition of taxation without representation?
This is a story time of the haunted house I grew up in and what made me get into the paranormal. So I moved into this house when I was about 4 years old. My sister would have been about 2. It's about 15-20 minutes out of Geelong. And for the first year of living in this house, nothing out of the normal happened. The first time I remember experiencing anything in this house, I was asleep. I felt tapping on my shoulder, so I turned over because I thought it was one of my parents. And I see this, what looked like a wolf. And I swear to God, I swear on my whole damn life, I saw this thing. I screamed, I called out for my parents. I thought someone had broken into my house wearing a wolf costume. Little did I know, this thing was really there, but it wasn't human. From then, I would not sleep in my room. I would refuse to sleep without either one of my parents. So me and my dad often used to sleep on the couch. Now down from our couch was a hallway, and at the end of that hallway we had our playroom with all of me and my sister's toys. There was a really, really bad smell that used to come from that room. It smelled like rotten. It was gut-wrenching. Outside of that window of our playroom we had our trampoline, so me and my sister were always out there. There was always this lady looking out the window. An old lady looking out the window watching us jump on the trampoline. Obviously I told my parents what I was seeing. They didn't believe me. When my dad and I would sleep on the couch, we would hear whispers coming from down the hallway, and this one night it was distorting the whispers. They were very loud, and I kept saying to my dad, "Can you hear that? Can you hear that?" He was like, "Yes, just go to sleep, forget about it." Next minute we hear smash, glass shattering. Earlier that day, we had gone for a walk with our dog, and I'd picked up a bolt off the ground. I put this bolt on the bench when we got home. This bolt had flown across the kitchen and smashed our oven door. Of course, we've all shit ourselves and we've run out the front door. We didn't come back for a few days. We stayed at our grandparents'. The day we come home from our grandparents', our smoke alarm kept going off. We ended up taking the batteries out of the smoke alarm because it was battery operated, because this thing was just going off non-stop. That thing with no batteries, no power, that thing still was going off. We didn't think much of it. We thought something was faulty. Obviously we told all of our family and friends what had been going on in this house, what we were experiencing. None of them believed us, so we said, okay, this Saturday night, come over, bring cameras, experience what we're experiencing. Of course we wanted to catch what was happening on camera. My uncle is the biggest skeptic, so he was going around the house taking photos in every room, taunting what was in these rooms. This is one of the photos he took in the office. Can you see what I'm looking at? What is that? What is that? My uncle ended up calling my dad saying, "I've caught this on camera. What is this?" We could not explain what that was. I had not seen it. No one knew what this thing was. Next Saturday night we had a 40th to go to, so we got home. Some family stayed over at our house. Obviously I didn't want to sleep on my own, but my parents didn't want to sleep with me, so I threw a tantrum. I would not sleep. I was crying, I was screaming. My parents had had enough. My dad used to smoke, so he said, "I'll go out the front for a smoke and then we'll work out what to do, like, to get me to sleep." My dad come back into my room and was like to me and my mum, "Why did you trash the house?" And we're like, "What do you mean?" He went to our family that was staying at the back of the house and was like, "Why did you trash the house?" And they were also like, "What do you mean? We've been in here the whole time. We would have passed Chloe's room if we went to the front." What my dad walked into, we can still not explain till this day. parents' room and the front lounge room were turned upside down. My dad obviously thought someone had still done that or someone had broken in, so he said, I'll go out for a smoke, we'll come inside and we'll work out what has happened. And my mum were in my room, our family was at the back of the house, my sister was asleep. We heard the front door open and then we heard like just a massive bang. The front door slammed shut and then just like a plop. We had all run into that front room, my family included, that was staying over, and my dad was unconscious on the floor throwing up green stuff. Obviously we called an ambulance because we didn't know what happened. The paramedics got there, they took his shirt off to put heart monitors on his chest, and they found this scratch and these scratches on his back. He also had scratches down his face, neck, and he was in a neck brace. While my dad was getting treated by the paramedics and he come to, I told him, and this is all on video, that I had seen that wolf in that lounge room where he was laying unconscious. Obviously at this point my parents started believing me that something was off in this house. So much stuff was happening, things were flying across the room in front of our eyes. TV channels were switching while we were watching TV. We pulled the plug out, like the power source of the TV, so there was no power. That TV still would turn on. At this point, didn't know what to do. We ended up calling a priest over to bless the house. This priest was also connected to a TV show that used to air on Foxtel back then, so they asked permission to come and film in our house. The medium from this TV show was instantly drawn to that back room. It had gone down there. She said that I feel a presence of an old lady. Little me runs down the hallway and says, yes, it's Maria. Who's Maria? That footage never ended up being aired. TV show broke down after our house because the cameraman felt like something was trying to enter his body and he quit there on the spot. After that, the priest told us there's no way we can cleanse this house. Whatever here is too strong. You've got poltergeists here. There was many other things that my dad and I had seen and heard in that house. So we called our real estate agent and said, we're breaking our lease, we want to move out. And when he asked why, we told him what we had been experiencing, especially in that back room with that smell. He goes, oh, my mum actually died in that room. Her name was Maria. We were on holidays when she died, so she was left there for 2 weeks decomposing. Ended up moving out, but that's only tiny bit of what had happened in that house. I've got so many stories I can tell you. All my childhood friends experienced things in that house that they could tell you about, but let me know if you want more stories.
You're quiet. Yeah. I'm trying to gauge how awkward and myself I can be in this new social situation. So I will be quiet until then. And then once I figure it out, you'll probably wish that I would go back to being quiet.
Story time on why you should be really careful about who you're dating. So this is a true story, friend of a friend kind of thing. There was a young girl, she lived in New York City, and she was on a dating app and matched with this young guy. He seemed like a really great person. He had his stuff together, good job, lived local to the area. They talked for a few weeks. Everything was going really great. No red flags, all of that good stuff. He decides to ask her out one night, and they end up going to, she agrees, they end up going to this really nice restaurant. He pays, he's a gentleman, he's nice to wait staff. They wrap up the night and they both go to their respective homes. And after she gets settled at her apartment, she gets a text from him saying that he lost his key and he's trying to get a hold of his roommate. His roommate isn't home, but his roommate is also not answering. So he's kind of like stuck outside of his apartment. Just sort of like telling her that, and she just kind of figures, all right, I'll invite you over. So, maybe give him a little bit of time to figure out what's going on, either find his key or get in contact with his roommate. So he comes over to her apartment and they have, a really nice chat. They sit on the couch. Finally, she decides that she's going to go to bed. She doesn't know why, but she goes into her own bedroom, which has a door, and she ends up locking it. And it's just one of those things that she felt like she needed to do, which I totally get. New people in your space. Sometimes it's nice to just be extra cautious. So she goes to her bedroom, she locks the door, and he's sleeping on the couch. Around 3 in the morning, she wakes up to a knocking on her door. It's her date, and he asks her if she has a cell phone charger because his cell phone is dead and he needs to charge it. This is the part where it gets like really crazy. So she tells him that she has one and it's on the kitchen counter. And she just tells him this through the door. She doesn't get up. She doesn't unlock the door. She doesn't go and find it for him. And I'm thinking to myself, if this was me, I would totally get up and grab it for the person and give it to them and then be like, all right, anything else? Good night. He says thank you. He goes, he grabs the charger, whatever. She doesn't know. She just goes right back to sleep. A few minutes later, he knocks on the door again. He said it's not working. And does she have one in her room? At this point, she's thinking that there's something up. She decides to call the police, which, once again, good for you, girl, for having the instinct to connect with the police. The police show up to the apartment. They knock on the door. She hears some commotion going on. And then she gets a knock on her bedroom door, because mind you, she hasn't come out this entire time. And it's a police officer. And he said, we've cleared the apartment. We have him in custody. We really need you to come out of your room so you can take a look at your apartment. She opens the door and walks out, and she sees that her entire living room is plasticed. And there is a set of power tools sitting on the floor. This girl, because of her instinct to not open the door to a weird request for a phone charger in the middle of the night, saved her. Before you decide to take someone home or let them stay at your place, think twice about it.
82% of CIA agents are men, which is crazy to me because one time I used a guy's public Venmo transaction history and his Twitter likes to figure out that he was also seeing a girl across the country. And I just don't believe a man could do that.
I had to turn on all my lights after reading this story. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about a story that I've been kind of putting off making the video for. And a huge driving factor on this, and now I'm going to be fully transparent about this. I'm not a fan of making videos about demonic things or demons specifically because every single time I've made a video, whether it's my personal experience or if it's someone else's, I hear things in either the background or in the audio and I have to reshoot it, something, every single time. I've also had instances where my dogs are growling at things that are not there, so you get the gist on why I'm a little hesitant to make videos about demonic things. But without further ado, let's get into it. This story comes from Lexi, who lives in West Virginia and lives in a very haunted house. She says that the hauntings started around the time when she was 6. Just for context purposes, she was 4 when her parents got a divorce, and her mom started seeing this man when she was around 6 years old, and shortly after, all of these hauntings started. And at first it was small occurrences, like her mom telling her to pick up her toys, so she would do so, and when they would come back, the toys would be scattered all across the floor. And she mentions during these instances, her mom and her both were afraid because they both knew that it was almost impossible for these things to be happening. But they continued to brush off these little noises, these little occurrences, because they could be coincidental. And Lexi says that this continued for 2 years before her mom's boyfriend moved in, and his parents actually lived down the street from Lexi's mom, where all of this stuff is occurring. And one night, Lexi, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend go down to his parents' house to have dinner. A couple of his cousins were over with their kids, and there was this little girl there who was like 2 years older than Lexi at the time, so little girl was 10, Lexi was 8. And when they were playing, this little girl just out of the blue says, "Did you know that there's an old woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs?" And at the time, she thought it was creepy, but she just kind of brushed it off, thinking that the little girl was just trying to scare her. A couple days later, her mom is walking up the stairs to use the bathroom, and Lexi just tells her mom, "Hey," little girl's name, said that there is a woman who lives in the bedroom upstairs. Her mom kind of turns around and is like, "Which bedroom?" So Lexi walks upstairs, gets to the door, and goes to look in and points and says, "This one." And as she does, she did in fact see a woman standing there, very pale, black hair, and a long nightgown. Lexi specifically said that it looked like it was from the early 1900s. And obviously upon seeing this, Lexi ran downstairs and her mom was really confused until they got back to their house and she explained the entire situation. Lexi's mom's boyfriend was overhearing this conversation and asked her to describe this woman. And when she did, he then said that they had been seeing that same woman there for years. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. Lexi says from that point on, the encounters in her house that were once very small became very amplified and very scary. And she said specifically that many nights she would feel like there was something in the room with her, even more specifically watching her sleep. But again, she brushed it off because she thought she was just scared. Until she was having a friend sleep over and her friend woke her up in the middle of the night to specifically tell Lexi that she had seen a woman looking at her from over the footboard, just like this. And Lexi thought it was a joke until her friend described the exact same woman she had been seeing. And I guess things get even worse because after this instance, Lexi's mom begins telling her that she has been seeing her walk around the house when she's not home. She can hear Lexi talking when she's not home. And Lexi had been seeing this woman in mirrors, like when she's brushing her teeth, for example. And on top of this, and what I think is the scariest, Lexi would hear clapping when nobody else was home, and people talking when nobody else is home. And most recently, she tells me that they have 2 dogs, and she brought one of the dogs into her room when she starts to hear the other dog whining and a woman talking to her dog. So immediately she opens the door, tells the other dog, like, Mom's home. The dog does not get up and greet her mom like he would normally do. And when Lexi walks out to go see her mom, she finds out that her mom is not home, her car is not in the driveway, and she is still at work. So again, she goes back in her room, closes the door, clear as day, hears a woman say, "Come here, where are you?" And she can hear the dog go from whining to barking. So immediately, she thinks that someone has broken into her house. She locks her door, gets her softball bat out, and calls her mom to come home immediately. The dog she had with her began barking, and thankfully, her mom only works like 10 minutes away, so she rushed home. But during the time of her mom coming home, Lexi began to hear heavy footsteps coming towards her door. And Lexi specifically states that the energy felt so heavy, and when whatever was outside of the door got to the door, it got eerily silent, and the keychain she has on her door began swaying back and forth. Her mom then got home, found no one in the house, and Lexi believes that the spirit attached itself to her and followed them home and has not left. Because that last instance happened like 3 weeks ago. And before I get into anything else, I just have to pause and say I've had to cut a couple of things out because I was hearing banging noises on my wall. And if you don't know, now you do. I either film early in the morning or late at night. I do this because then I don't have to worry about outside noises or my neighbors being awake, etc. So I don't know, and it's furthering the I don't like making videos about demons kind of thing. What really freaked me out was the clapping and obviously the lady looking over the footboard. I don't like that. And I swear I can almost see her face when I'm talking about this. And when I read it the first time, I could see her. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.